Lord have mercy. Were we going to be informed that streaming has started at any point? Oh, God.
We still have a few seconds before we are live on YouTube, so get your last sentences.
I have a prompt already. This meeting is being live streamed.
Yeah, but there's a delay between Zoom and YouTube.
Okay, please, if we can have your cameras on, thank you. Oh, Jesus. Okay, what's that? I have a prompt already. This meeting is being live streamed.
Yeah, but there's a delay between Zoom and YouTube.
Okay, please, if we can have your cameras on, thank you. Faye, I'll be waiting for your prompt.
Hi, sorry, we're live now. I was talking to Emily on the phone.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening from wherever you're logging in from. This is the FinTech Open House hosted by the Payment Log. If you're joining on YouTube, please, I'd like you to type in the chat box where you're listening in from, just your location and then maybe your name if you want. Thank you. So today we are going to be discussing a very, very important topic, unraveling the FinTech back office, also known as FinTech operations as well. And with me, I have three people that are very seasoned and are quite knowledgeable on this subject. I'll be introducing Oremeyi, Sheike, and Chijoke. So I'll just start from Oremeyi. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Oremeyi here, Oremeyi Aka. I introduce myself. Okay, I have experience in FinTech operations. I'm passionate about what I do. I believe that work should relate to your purpose in life, and I'm here to add value.
Thank you. Sheike, you're next.
I thought Chijuke would go next. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ola Sheike. Ola Sheike Bojo. Basically, I also have experience in operations. So I started out as a customer success representative, and now I lead the dispute operations where I work. Basically, I feel like my principle and my value is every step of the way you learn. So just be open towards learning. And that's exactly what I'm actually going to be doing on this call. So I'll be sharing and at the same time learning. Yeah, pleased to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheike. And Chijoke, you're next.
Yeah, so hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Chijoke. So I have about 4 years experience in payment operations, being mostly in payment operations. Yeah, so I'm also very, very passionate about people-centered tech. I believe that whatever you're building should make lives better, especially for those of us in the back office, right? Yeah, so that's it. I'm also here to learn from all these very smart people, smarter than me actually. So.
Thank you, everybody. So we'll jump right in, right? We have about 40 minutes, so we'll jump right in. And before we jump right in, I will just set a structure for our discussion. So first of all, we'll try and establish an understanding of the term fintech operations or fintech back office, like it's normally called. And then we'll look at best practices in fintech back office. And then we'll now look at how tech has affected some of those operations, some of the decisions that have been taken in that area, in that category. And then we'll have final words, just us pouring out our hearts to every other person that we've been working with over the years and how we want them to collaborate with us in the future. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Fine.
So we'll jump in. I'll be going to Sheike. How do you define fintech operations?
Okay, so for me, fintech operations is basically everything you do to ensure that a product that has been established succeeds. Basically, so there are different products within fintech, and what makes or what helps a business communicate the value of that product is what operations does. So basically, every process in place to ensure that people you're serving or the businesses you're serving gets the best out of that product is what I define as fintech operations. And there are different arms to it, right? There is the finance, there is partnerships, there is customer success. There are different arms to it. So basically all these things coming together to ensure that people experience the value of the product that you want to deliver as a business is what fintech operations is.
Awesome, that's very, very concise. Chijioke, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like payment operations or fintech operations is this done between tech and people, right? And the whole essence is to make lives better, to ensure that your customers get value for their experience and for their money, and to experience, good customer service. And also, the job of operations is to ensure that the company looks good. And how do they look good? By delivering your services and keeping your promises, of course. And you keep your promises by doing what you say you do. Your vision, your mission to get. So obviously, all of these things basically is what operations do. Ensure that your company looks good and your customers are very, very, I'm happy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oremaye, I'll be going to you next. I want you to add a perspective that Sheike started talking about when you're defining yours. So just tell me from the wealth of your experience in defining what fintech operations is, what you think are the major categories in fintech operations.
All right, so major categories in fintech operations actually depend on which area of fintech that business is playing, but typically overall, there is the first level of the things that need to happen to make sure that when the customer is interacting with the solution or using that solution at that point, the value that needs to be delivered at that point is delivered. So technically, this can be called the processing level, right? So there is operations on that level. Now, there is also operations on the next level, which are the things that must happen after the interaction, the real-time interaction with the customer has occurred, the things that must happen to what I can say maintain the integrity of the system, because we know that fintech is about ecosystems, about interoperability. So there is the place of making sure the things that happen afterwards, right? The things that need to happen afterwards actually happen. There is also operations on that level. There is operations on the level of when there is an exception. An exception could happen at the point of interaction with the customer. It could come up much later, again, because there are many players in the ecosystem. There is operations on that level as well. And that's where you find customer support and things. That is, on the exception level. There is operations on the level of expansion, whereby there is business as usual and there are new features coming in or new solutions coming in to, augment what was there before. and there's operations on that level. So that's how I will basically categorize it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, thank you for all your contributions to that definition. I'll now go to what I would say is the meat of what we are talking about. So in fintech, and then by extension in payments, because payment is a very large part of fintech, right? The operations part seems to get a bad rap. So anything that happens when customers' transactions fail, when there are dispute resolution, when the apps are down, it's operations. Everybody, points their fingers at operations. Why does operations get such a bad rap? Oreme, I'll be starting from you.
Okay, so just quickly to say that operations, Sheikha said, operations is about everything you do that needs to happen to make sure that business promise is kept happens. So it will, in any industry, I always say generically, operations tends to get a bad rap. And this is across education, hospitality, airlines, because operations always bears that pressure, right? And in fintech particularly, it's more, well, I won't say it's more pronounced. It's because it's our space. It's very well pronounced because, one, there is very fast growth in fintech. And honestly, fintech is a fairly new, in my view, fairly new industry compared to others. So in oil and gas, there's operations. But I can tell you that the process maturity of their operations in oil and gas far, far exceeds that of fintech, simply because of the amount of time we've been around. So in summary, fintech operations get a lot of pressure. And as you said, bad rap, because the industry, in my view, is growing at an astronomical rate. So what do we need to do? So as much as innovation is amazing and inspiring, we need to make sure we don't just innovate on one level. We innovate all the way to the back. We innovate up to the systems, up to the gears and the pulleys that make sure that that business promise is kept. We must innovate on that level. We must go into details on that level. Else what you have is a beautiful house with a weak foundation, which is why, and the foundation is operations, right? And then there will be negativity, there will be negative experiences. And at the end of the day, the business targets or goals will not be met.
Thank you. Sheikha, I would like to ask you the question a little bit differently. So I understand that the fintech ecosystem is maturing, especially in Nigeria, right? But I would think that if something goes wrong, you blame everybody or blame the person or the sector, the team that looks like they should be most blamed. Like who designed this thing? Who wrote the code, right?
Yeah.
Why does it come all the way to operations rather than everybody or some other kind or some other team? Why operations?
And I honestly think it depends on the way different businesses approach operations, really. I think for operations to be successful, it takes collaboration, right? If the product team builds a product in isolation, I'm guessing that they're ready to be sitting at the support desk managing customers or serving customers by themselves, right? So I feel like it depends on how different businesses approach operations. It's strategic, right? So which means as you're evolving your products, you should also evolve the process that back your operations, right? You should also evolve, in fact, change when necessary, the processes that back up your operations, right? If there is a new product, okay, do you require a new process to support that product? If yes, kindly put it in place, make it visible for everyone to see, right? Run it by product. Does this speak to the value of your product, right? But then when that collaboration doesn't happen, you find that the operation seems inefficient. Which is what we would see, what people would see from the outside. Oh, these people are not good at this, or they are not good at that. Because actually, to people on the outside, the customers are serving, operations isn't inefficient. But then internally, we need to do the work of empowering, right? And as Oreme has said, you need to empower, right, the team internally, the operations team internally, with tools that they need to do the work properly to be able to keep the operations running. And I think that every business should actually pay attention to that. You want to do a new partnership. Okay, where does operation fall in this new partnership, right? You want to go live with a new product. Okay, how will operations be able to support this product? What do we need to give them? Really a collaborative effort for us to be able to be as efficient as we want to be.
Thank you. So Chijoke, to you now. You've experienced operations in the various places you've worked, apart from the current place you are in right now, where you work in operations. And I would like to find out, why do you think the back office, settlement, reconciliation, and all that would be blamed when something happens, even if it has to do with some things that were not considered during the design, especially for a large organization like yours?
Okay, so like the boss said, right, for fintech now, which is payments, when issues happen, issues like transaction failures or fraud, who does the company look to solve these issues? It's operations, and sometimes these companies do not equip operations enough to do these jobs effectively. For instance, most of the staffs there are contract staffs. Some are not, they lack the technical know-how to do these jobs, and they are really, really underpaid. And so they lack the motivation to do this job effectively, right? So if there are problems to solve, and then you still expect these guys that you don't really pay well, they are contracts, they are not motivated enough to solve your problems for you, it's not going to work. There'll be a lot of backlash coming at you. And of course, in this kind of environment, things won't work well. And there are going to be problems where your issues are going to pend. And even if someone was to do it, and they'll do a very bad job of it, especially in large corporates where it's not just a one-man job. There are teams doing these jobs, and there is no one person to hold accountable. All right. So now to solve this problem effectively is pay them better, get more qualified staff. This issue now is operations are seen as cost centers, right? So they are seen as those who don't really generate any money to the company. So why throw money at them? You get, so now that affects the kind of hires that companies get, kind of tools that they have, and the kind of perks that they get. And this can be very, very demotivating for these staff who you expect to solve your problems for you.
That's an interesting perspective that you have.
Yeah.
I think we have feedback from somebody. But I was saying that that's an interesting perspective you have, the perspective that in management, when you're looking at the profit and the cost centers, that operations is seen as a cost center and they want to reduce any overhead or OPEX that accrues to that center as much as possible. And over the years, management executives and management consultants actually have proposed that machines should take over the roles as much as possible of the people that are in operations. And it brought about concepts that have trended, for quite a while, like the RPA. And then it first started with the BPMS. And from BPMS, we started hearing RPA, and RPA's cousins, are the chatbots that we've seen around. And I want to find out from, all of you that have been working in that sector for a while, or in that team for a while, to what extent do you think that the automations, that the promises of these very fancy and quite expensive attempts at automation, to what extent do you think that they've worked? Sheike, over to you.
So interestingly, right, you still need an operations person to be able to feed the right information to the chatbot and the RPA. A lot of work goes behind ensuring that these things work properly, right? It's not just, again, like the tech has been provided, And you need to use it in your context, right? Within your context, it's important that you are delivering value with that bot. So basically, how do you harness the best of that bot? If I'll use the chatbot, for example. So I go to a website, I really don't want to call, and then like I use the chat and I'm saying, oh, this is what I need and stuff. If the chatbot's response to me gives me a response that my mind is not ready to receive that response, I'm just going to be like irked and irritated. But like if the chatbot gives me some form of information, maybe like a link, to just say, okay, go to this link, maybe you would find this information there. Like I'm prompted, I can see some form of, will I say, human touch, even if it's a chat that is like giving me a link or referring me somewhere, right? While I wait for someone to attend to me. So I feel like even if these technologies are available, what's the best way to use it, right? For instance, for customer support, and I've had the great opportunity to be a customer support rep. And I was also part of building a robust knowledge base, right? When a customer sends in an email, we're definitely going to say, oh, we are going to be with you shortly, but it seems this is your request. In the meantime, take a look at this link. Let us know if this answers your question. That is me trying to help the customer while the customer is waiting for a response from me. And if it happens to be very productive for the customer to click on the link and find their answer, I have delivered value in some way. So the usage of the bot or the RPA shouldn't just be that, oh, we're using it as a holding response. How are you going to deliver value that you set out as a business to deliver using that automation? That's how I think about it.
You made very, very important points, when you started talking, because I've seen people come to pitch RPA and come to pitch some of these automation tools, and the operations executives are not even in the room. They think it's strategy, and then when we are done with what we want to do, we plug and play it. No, somebody needs to show you around this house. The house in Lagos is not the same thing with the house in, wherever. Somebody needs to show you around. Oreme, you've had some experience with this, and I would like you to really weigh in on it.
Okay, so I agree a lot with some of the key points that Sheikhem brought up. So one is that so to just lay the foundation, I believe RPA and automation indeed add value to the operations of any business, and in fintech particularly. And again, the reason for it is not just because, the tasks are low brain tasks, get rid of the humans there and replace with robots. No, but it's because the human has been able to develop and standardize things so well. If you are able to do that so well, and there is actually an opportunity for the people in that role to start doing more intelligent, exciting, and dynamic stuff. And so the day-to-day routine tasks that have been so well documented, set up, defined, and standardized can now be handled by a machine, an RPA tool, or a robot. So in other words, RPA and robot automation coming into operations is to enhance it. One is to enhance what has been standardized so it can be done more consistently. Sheikemi mentioned strategy. It must be tied to the strategy of the company. If the company is planning to scale and go into, deal with, a greater mass of customers, then the onus is on that business to take its operations, dot the I's, cross the T's, standardize the processes, and then RPA can add value. I've seen RPA come in being deployed in environments where processes were not standardized and it was a total mess. But I've also seen it deployed where processes have been standardized, defined, of course, fixed here and there, and it was able to take off up to 50% of manual work. And what happens to those people? Chijioke mentioned, okay, people may see operations as a cost center. Operations, well, yes, but a business that is strategic in its thinking knows that your operations is critical to the future of your company. I mentioned the different levels of operations. Of course, people think operation, they think of support. But when you think of the day-to-day, the fact that you have promised a customer, a business, or the network that you're going to do this, your operations must be in place for you to do that, for you to earn money. So actually, if a business or a company, management team only sees the operation as a cost center, I dare say they're quite myopic, right? You must see operations as strategic, because it is. Operations contributes to revenue. It contributes hugely. It contributes to your brand value, because it determines what people feel when they touch you, when they experience you. And sometimes you don't have a second chance. So operations is highly strategic, it can even be a differentiating factor for a company. I mean, I don't like using foreign examples. Amazon, what made Amazon so efficient is their operations. It is their operation. So RPA is value adding, definitely. It must be aligned with the business strategy. It can only be successful when layered on well-documented, defined, and standardized processes. Operation is a strategic lever for any company. Those are my points.
Awesome. Anybody that is watching and you have not put something down for standardizing your processes at your next strategy meeting, I really don't know what to say to you, right? So I'll just go to a question I've received from the audience on YouTube, and anybody can answer, please. It says the person asked, are there any technologies or frameworks being used by operation teams in fintech? Where do I look? Thank you. I'll just need a very short answer so that we can go to the next things we have to discuss. Who wants to take a go at it?
Okay, so I can try.
Okay, go first. No, don't worry. You can go first, and I'll go after you.
All right. I was going to say a very simple place to start is Lean Six Sigma. And why I like Lean Six Sigma, although people think of black belt and it's huge and seems very, an audacious goal. But Lean Six Sigma starts with very simple things like 5S, putting things in order, sorting out your processes, making them standardized. So very simple tools, the Kanban, what goes in, what is in process, what's coming out, everybody being able, visibility tools, everybody being able to see. And when everybody's able to see, everybody's able to align. So I would say Lean Six Sigma because it has such a vast array of tools. So don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Go in there, look at one or two tools that can work, start trying it. If it doesn't work, trash it, take another one. And I tell you, there's something for you in the Lean Six Sigma framework.
Thank you. Shaker, as you're commenting, please, any technologies or frameworks, I sort of think the person is looking for a name rather than maybe a framework or a standard. So maybe, I use Dynamics or something. That's what I think the person might be looking at. So your comment, please.
Yeah, and I think that it differs for different parts of operations, right? For some businesses, they prefer to build internally, and for some businesses, they prefer to employ external tools. What I've seen, right, and what I have used that has worked for visibility and collaborations in operations is Jira. Jira really works. Sorry, I think there's a background noise. There is some carpentry work beside me. Yes. So Jira really works for collaboration, number one. Number two, interestingly, Notion. You can do so many things with Notion, right? You can create a board because again, it's about processes. So you need to know what is moving from one point to another, right? You need to be able to track from one point to another. You need to be able to track specific things. You need to be able to track progress. And I think that Notion does a lot. You can do a lot with Notion. You can document, you can create boards, right, for projects. You can share, you're able to provide visibility to everyone in the company, right, with Notion. So I think that those are the tools that you can explore. There are many more, and there are different tools. And again, it's subject to change depending on the level of visibility you want to give the people within the company. People move from Jira to Basecamp, people move from tools to be more efficient. People use like 2 or more tools to be more efficient, right? It's also context driven, but like high level, those are the tools I've used, and I think they work in any given context.
Thank you. So just to wrap that up, Oremayi focused on the standards, Lean Six Sigma. She spoke about or focused on Lean Six Sigma, and then Sheike mentioned Jira and then Notion, and elaborated on how Notion can be used for various things, but you just need to know what you want to track. So we are moving on, and we'll be wrapping up in a bit. And I just want to focus the next question, or send the next question to Chijioke. So Chijioke, you've worked in a lot of places that either had operations teams or you are part of the operations team. What are the best practices for organizing operations? So we talked about the different teams that are in operation, the support, the finance, people that handle exceptions, people that are focused on specific customer problems at different levels, whether it's the first level or not. And I want to ask very specifically, some people think operations should be centered around how your organization is structured, right? So you have maybe different businesses focusing on the south, on the west, and on the east, and so operations should be operations in the south and like that. So people think operations should be focused on these business segments or the verticals. So we have a B2B business that would normally interface with the business teams or the business products, and we have the customer-facing products for the B2C. And perhaps we should focus, or structure our operations around that. What are your views on what has worked and what has not worked?
Okay, so I feel like it depends really. Depends on the kind of company you run, the kind of businesses that you have. Okay, so for a bank now, for instance, operations will most likely be around your products and your regions, right? So you could have you have debit card product operations, you could have payment operations, you could have sales and all of that. So it actually depends on what you're trying to focus on and what you're trying to sell. And also you could have regions. Now you could have the banks have all these head south, head northwest. So it's a kind of strategic positioning for your business. So under those umbrellas, you can now do supervision, you can sell, can do operations and all that. So basically it's both ways. Just choose what works best for you. But for banks, if you currently work, it's around your regions and your products mainly.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything to that, Sheike or Oremayi? We just need one more perspective.
So I think, like Chijioke said, it's really context driven. I feel like for some businesses, because they want to be able to monitor things at scale, you find that they improve the operations around certain teams, right? Meanwhile, while some other operations are like region specific or country specific, right? If you look at like the product managers now, right, you can tell that there are PMs for specific things, but then if you look at support, right, support covers everything. It's very possible that a business would have essential support for every single country, right, that they support, or for every single country that they are present in. But then you find that for some specific areas, maybe for like expansion, right, or partnerships, you find that they are more specific about like they're more specific about where this person should reside. So I guess it's also like business context driven. And I think that the most important thing is that you don't drop the ball on operations. And if a ball is dropped, you find a way to quickly fix it, either by instituting new processes, right, or tweaking the previous ones that you have.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Oremayi a question. I think she's gone offline, but we have.
No, I'm here.
Okay, we have 2 questions to go, and they are quite important questions. So people are asking on YouTube, what can operations do to challenge the norm? If you have something you're doing specifically in your organizations and you are privileged to share, you're allowed to share, that would be nice. Just to give that context, we see how developer relations for the engineering team is now a thing. You know, they are very focused on how their engineers, the welfare of the developers, as well as how developers outside interact with their products, right? We've seen the product management practice grow, and also have those categories where people are focused on growth, people are focused on technical product management. If you Google anything about product management, you'll find tons of material. What can be done for fintech operations to challenge the norm and to move it to the next level? A remedy.
Okay. Big question. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I would say that one thing is people respect you as an individual when you know the value you bring to the table. For a long time, operations was kind of positioned, as we said before, that cost center, that's, person that you just have to deal with, that function that, oh my gosh, I have to deal with them, But if operations can standardize what it does, and when I say standardize, not standardize it in isolation, but for every stage of value. So when I was opportune to run the operations of one of the most major fintechs for about 4 years, one thing that we're able to do was that every level of our operations, I mentioned the levels when we started, at every level of operations, we're able to tie it to the business goal and show where we were supporting that business to achieve. So operations, that again, back to that cost center story, if you do that, you will clearly show yourself as a partner that is worthy of what I would call the right hand of fellowship. So I think that's one thing operations has not done very well in some industries and in some companies. That is, it has left itself to be that person that you throw things at and they are trying to every day put out fires. But if operations will sit back, take each stage of the value they add, because operations add huge value, marry it to the business goals, very important. And there are many frameworks for doing this, right? There are many frameworks for operations to show how it is adding value by increasing revenue. For a very simple example, efficient operations for a company that is processing transactions will increase the number of successful transactions. Number of successful transactions increase the number of increase in revenue. So therefore, if ever there is a dip in uptime, there's a dip in be picking up where an exception has happened and being able to resolve that exception quickly, that downtime period, transactions are being lost and the business revenue line is being impacted. So operations must come in as a business partner to every stage of the business, showing how I'm helping you make money and I'm helping you not lose money. Very important. So again, we mentioned support. We know that a customer will only come back when he's happy with his last experience, right? And if he has an option, he's going to walk out the door if he had a negative experience, except you are the only one in that space. And we can see that does not help, at all, because someone will always come up eventually. So again, operations is preventing you from losing funds when they're able to deliver value that customers want to have again and again. And that's why operations and customer experience are very closely linked. Product and customer experience are very closely linked, of course, but operations is a critical lever in that space, because customers will come back when the operations did what it had to do and they had that positive experience. So the summary is, I think operations need to position itself as a business partner. The operations leaders need to think not so much as firefighters, but as strategic people. You must, the same way you have a strategy for business, you have a target for business, you can measure what business is bringing. Operations needs to measure what it brings in. We're able to achieve that in our second year, and it changed a lot of dynamics. We're able to say the cost of operations has gone down by X because we did Y. You need to do that. And I think that will definitely give operations a seat at the table.
Thank you very much. My last question is related to a lot of the things that you touched on in what you just said. So my last question is, in trying to get a seat at the table, become more prominent, show yourselves to be strategic, and even be business partners, there are many things operations has not said to the rest of the business teams. And I would like you to represent your colleagues all over the world, all over Nigeria. And in last words, I would like to find out what you would like to say from the bottom of your heart. You know those things that they normally say, what men wish women knew, what children wish their parents knew, type kind of thing. So what does operations, what would you like to say to 3 groups? Number 1, what would you like products to know? What would you like business to know? And what would you like engineering to know? I'll start from Chijoke. Chijoke, what would you like, what would operations like products to know?
Okay, so basically, carry us along, right?
Oh.
So it's not just enough to have us in the room on your UATs or whatever, but let our needs actually be met, because if we attend all those meetings, we say some things, right? And then we say the things that we want to achieve. But engineering or products or engineering or products still go ahead and do their own. Everything is pushed to version 2.0, and 2.0 never comes, right? So you have a crappy product, you know, and you can use it. It's creating more job for you, and then, you know, it's a mess. Actually, so just
packing
carry
beans.
us along. You get carry us along, and if we have needs, let our needs be actually met. Don't, you know, postpone them. Basically.
Awesome, thank you. Sheikh, what would operations like engineering to know?
If a product is going live for the external people, ensure that what we need, right, internally to support that feature is built. If not,
100%.
the communication of that value, like,
100%.
we will not be able to properly communicate the value of that. We'll not be able to support merchants, not be able to support businesses, customers, right, well enough. And if we don't support them well, they wouldn't be able to experience the value, because it's one thing to say the value, communicate these things via mail. It's another thing for them to experience it from the human interaction. So when there is no delay in them getting responses, when it comes to a certain product that has been built, right, it is because the engineering team has done the wonderful job of building something on the internal tool that would help us support the needs of businesses who need that product. So that's what I have to say to them. Just build the internal correspondence to the external correspondence. Ensure.
Awesome. And then final words, Oreme, what would operations like to say to the business team?
I'd like to say we are partners, guys. Let's do this together. And I, as operations, I'm not going to burden you with the whole responsibility to give me a call, to invite me to the party. I'm going to bring value to you. So I'm able to show you the value I bring, but understand that we are partners. And without the business, what are you operating? And without the operations, you are not in business. So we are partners is important, and it must go beyond lip service. Operations must show the business how I need input from you to configure my own systems, because operations strategy is about alignment. But sometimes operations by themselves, we are haughty. We say, oh man, I'm operations, they're going to come to me. I do it the way I want. You're not going to get value. You're not going to go far. Business at the same time, you feel operations will eventually get there. And at the end of the day, it's unnecessary tension. So I would say we are partners. We are partners. Let's start off together. We need each other, right? There must be alignment and what I call constant reconciliation of alignment, because business directions change. So operations must be as flexible, ready to listen, not be fixated, and ready to flow. So that constant reconciliation between the business strategy and the operation strategy is important. That's all I'll say.
Thank you very much. And it's a wrap. So I'll just give a summary of the very, very important things that have been said on this discussion. So operations is everything you do after a product has left the office or has left the yard, and you need to have operations in place to fulfill the promise you have made to a customer. Customer has a product in his hand, and when he starts using it, operations must be in place. And operations is not just support. Operations is finance, it's partnerships, it's customer success, and it's at different levels. It's at the first level where you're having initial contact with the customer, and it could also be where you are handling exceptions or where you're strategizing for expansion because you're increasing what the business has to do. And also very importantly, when you're innovating and you're changing how you offer your channels, the touch points your customers have, you need to innovate all the way to the back. If not, something will break somewhere and somebody would have a bad experience. And very importantly, also to speak to this thing called operations is a cost center. If you do operations very well as a business, your marketing comes down because the customers become the marketers. Somebody that I've used the product and very recently, and I've been telling everybody about it unsolicited. I just want people to, have the same kind of experience I have. And that's what happens when you have good operations in fintech. And also you need to use tech, any tech you're buying for operations, any automation you're trying to do for operations, you need to be able to do that within the context of your business. So from the get-go, involve your operations executives. This has been very, very rewarding. This has been very, very enlightening. Thank you very much, Chijoke. Thank you very much, Oreme. Thank you very much, Sheike, for taking out time to discuss with us. Thank you very much, everybody on YouTube. Thank you for your questions. Sorry, we didn't get to answer all of them, but you can put some of them on YouTube or on our Twitter page or the LinkedIn page, and then we'll get around to answering them. Thank you, everyone. It's a wrap. See you.
Thank you. Thank you, and have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.